On the Track is a web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of On the Track. And as you can see behind me, that we are doing some clever things, or rather Carl's doing some clever things, and he is making the On the Track studio set all shipshape and Bristol fashion, and I think it looks really smashing. There's actually quite a strange story about this. As you can probably tell, those little shelves there are in what used to be the doorway from the front door, where there's a little hallway thing at the bottom of the stairs into the sitting room here. But my mother had some sort of weird idea. She was a very strange lady. She had some sort of weird idea that it was vulgar to have a front door open out onto the road, and so she wanted to make the other doors into the house, the front door and back door, and so she had my father lock up what was the front door, and as part of this the stairs went down to the bottom of the stairs now, and they turn right into the dining room, and what was the door into the sitting room got blocked up. This was 40-something years ago, and 45 years ago maybe, and my father made little shelves to go there. When Karina moved in to live with me, we put her Welsh dresser in front of it, because we had to put it somewhere and we were running out of space, and I love my wife very much, and if she wanted to have a wash dresser there, then hey, go for it. But what happened was, when she died, Olivia wanted the Welsh dress, and I said of course she could have it, and she made arrangements to come down and take it away. Now, all the years that Karina's Welsh dresser was there, which is something like 15-16 years, I had visualized the shelves as you see them now, being white wood on a blue background. And I was absolutely amazed that when the Welsh dresser was taken away, that the background was white. And I've been meaning to have them made blue ever since. And that's what Carl is doing now, making it blue, so the background to my stage set for what is the vast majority of bits of these shows, which is me talking, is more attractive than it was. And I don't know about you, but I think that blue looks absolutely smashing, and it's going to look even better when it's dried, had another coat of paint, and Carl's put all the different specimens and exhibits back up on the shelves. I think it would look even better if it wasn't covered in cats.
I really like the old credits.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, me and Lilith have got quite a lot to tell you, because some things happened here in CFZ land between me recording the last episode and it actually being broadcast. So it's all a bit complicated, and again, it's all what happens when you record things 2 or 3 or 4 weeks ahead of when they are being broadcast, isn't it, Lilith? Basically, ages ago, Louis and I were invited to go and do a course with those jolly nice fellows at YouTube. But the idea of having to go to London for 3 days and be told about YouTube algorithms was a bit too much for me to deal with. So we've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. But the other day, Louis, God bless him, in his professional capacity actually met somebody who'd done this course and had a long chat with them. And he found out all sorts of things that are quite important that we didn't know. And the biggest thing of this list of things is that although we thought that the fact that we put out a half-hour show once a week, that's 52 shows a year, we thought that made us quite a prolific YouTuber. But it doesn't. So, as of a couple of weeks back, we started putting out something that we call On the Track Extra. Yes, we did do On the Track Extra many years ago, and I'm sure you remember that. But now the new On the Track Extra is about 10 minutes long, and it comes out in the middle of the week. And it's a good way of catching up on news stories and other stuff that there isn't enough room for in the main show. I do want to make a point here, by the way, that this does not affect the main show one jot or tittle. The main show will still be going out on Saturday afternoons at 3 o'clock for about half an hour. It's just that we now have a supplementary show on Wednesday evenings at 5 o'clock for about 10 minutes. Confused? You will be. And why are we doing this? Well, it's a bit complicated, but as far as we can ascertain, preferential treatment is given to more prolific YouTubers, and a prolific YouTuber, like what we hope we are going to be, is given more of an oomph along the search engines when the show is first broadcast. And hopefully this means that we are going to up our viewing figures, which would be a very nice thing to do. If you've been watching this show over the last 6 months, you will have noticed that I've been including quite a few excerpts from a long conversation that I had with Richard Freeman and Carl Marshall at the end of last year. And we covered the subjects of the expeditions that they wanted to go on. We discussed the precise nature of giant crocodiles and giant snakes, and we talked about speciation in orangutans. But then it was time to wrap the whole question up. The thing that I find interesting, and that I think is one of the things most interesting about what you've been saying today, the explanations you've given for mystery animals are all eminently sensible. You have pooh-poohed the idea of surviving dinosaurs and the roping and various other creatures which sound like they've come out of the lost world. Do you think cryptozoology needs... I'm trying to say this without being a leading question, but do you think cryptozoology needs to do more to embrace contemporary scientific thinking?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I see things on YouTube which try and put things like Dogmen and the Slender Man, which was made up, a completely made up character, and the Rake and other things in with cryptozoology, which is utterly absurd.
With Dogman, you just do not get pronounced prognathous jaws on habitual bipeds. You just don't get that. It doesn't happen. You know, the snout gets shorter as they become more bipedal, and the brain becomes bigger. That's why we exist.
Tell that to St. Christopher.
Yeah, the chances of Dogman existing are, well, it's not worth taking.
As
seriously.
a flesh and blood entity.
No, that's completely ridiculous.
You know that St. Christopher, the saint who carried Christ across, when he was a little boy, across a torrential river, he was supposed to be a cynocephalus.
Oh.
And there was another Celtic saint that,
Again, I think it's a symbol of savagery again.
oh, so do I. And there's another one that the Celtic saint Steve Jones told me about. It was supposed to be a mermaid, which... But this stuff's folklore.
If you look into actual legends of werewolves, they're not like the Dogman or the Beast of Bray Road today, which is like the human wolf hybrid standing on two legs with a wolf head and a hairy body. They're people who were supposed to transform utterly and completely into wolves that were indistinguishable from any other wolf, except for perhaps bizarre behaviour. And the whole thing may have started with rabid wolves losing their fear of man and attacking people and attacking livestock wantonly, and then passing on this curse, the curse, the disease of rabies.
You know, there are known examples in nature. Just look at the baboon. The baboon has arguably got the most prognathous jaw of all primates, and they are terrible at bipediality, aren't they? They can sort of stand up a bit and move forward a little bit, but they don't walk well. Whereas the shorter the muzzle becomes, the more upright the primate seems to be.
I've also thought that dog-headed men also may be garbled travellers' tales of the giant lemurs that used to live on Madagascar.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. And again, they don't walk very well bipedally, though, do they?
No, but if you see one in a tree, squatting in a tree, looking very man-like, with the dog-like snout.
Well, the Sifaka.
Yeah.
And all the prehistoric giant ones. That
But
lived
a
in
lot of them were
relatively
related to the Sifaka, weren't
Yeah.
they?
But the chimpanzee is less prognathous than the gorilla, and better at bipediality.
When I was in Nevada in 1999, I met a couple of people who, they didn't come over as if they were trying to tease the visiting limey, but they told me there was a tribe of dog-headed men who lived right deep out in the desert. They promised me they'd take me to go and see them, but it would take 4 days to travel there and back.
Again, I think it's just a symbol of savagery. I don't think they really exist. I think if we did go out and find them, you'd find they're just a tribe of normal people. They're just very primitive.
I think in quite a few places, especially in North America, you find that the native population, when a baby was born that had deformities of some sort or another, a person with deformities would be thrown out of the tribe.
They probably wouldn't have lived very long anyway.
Well, it depends, because when I was in the swamps in Orange County, I've never seen A, such incredibly impenetrable terrain, and B, such an amazing amount of food. There's so much food that could be eaten that you wouldn't have to be very clever to find.
I think it's being open to the elements would be the problem. Not so much finding food.
Not necessarily in somewhere that's that impenetrable. I think once you got into some knotted into a sort of little hole in the middle of some knotted vines, you'd be impervious to the elements.
Yeah.
It's just something I give you as an idea. It's something that I've often thought about the medieval woodroses. Could they have been outcasts from outcasts from a civilized tribe, a tribe of normal people?
Because woodworks just means wood house, doesn't it? As in forest dwelling.
Yeah. And people talk an awful lot of nonsense about these things. They, again, equate them with dogmen and...
I think the dogman is extremely unlikely to exist as a flesh and blood animal.
Some of the reports of the Beast of Bray Road, like the initial one where the guy was sent to clean up a deer carcass one night, and he parked up next to the deer carcass, and before he got out, and he loaded it onto the back of his truck. Then he went back into the truck to start it up, and he looked in his wing mirror, and he saw this thing rear up and grab the dead deer and pull it off. His description sounds like a bear with mange.
Okay.
Because if you see a bear without hair, it looks really weird. It looks a bit like a Hollywood werewolf.
Yeah.
And I think that was what the
That
initial...
makes a lot of sense, yeah. Hello, Lee.
I think an awful lot of the more modern ideas of cryptids can be dismissed as either misidentifications of known things or something which is a parapsychological phenomenon. And the reason that we're called the Centre for Fortean Zoology, not the Centre for Cryptozoology, is that sometimes we study this stuff, but you have to keep it separate.
Oh, well, I think the broadest division in monsters, the broadest category in monsters is ones that are actual flesh and blood animals and ones that are something else.
I invented the term zooform phenomena to mean things which appeared to be animate but weren't. It's now been co-opted into being demons or ghouls or monsters or whatever.
That doesn't mean that these other things, they're not really, I wouldn't say they're not animate. It doesn't mean that they're not alive in some way. It's just a totally different type of thing.
They're not.
Whether it's
They're not. Sorry, they're not governed by the flesh and blood laws of zoology for carbon-based life forms.
So it's one of the most fascinating reports I've heard was from, I think it's from 2012, and it was one of Linda Godfrey's books, and it was from a place called Oconto Falls in Wisconsin, where a bunch of kids and some visiting kids from another town, they were teenagers, they'd been to a concert at some mall, and they were in a car park somewhere, and they saw a ball of fire shoot over, a ball of orange and blue fire. And they thought, what the hell is that? And they all swear that they saw a dragon. And they said it had 4 legs, it held up against its body, massive bat-like wings, a long tail with a fin at the end, a long neck and a wedge-shaped head. They said it was scaly and white, and they said when it opened its mouth and breathed fire, it wasn't a jet of fire, it was a ball of blue and orange fire. And I always thought, if you're going to make a story about a dragon, it's going to be green or red or something like that. What if they made it white and it will be breathing a jet of fire like they always do in films and in novels and things, but it was spitting a ball of fire. And then later, 2 of them, when they went home and told their mum and their sister, they didn't believe them, and then they went out into the garden, they saw it again flying over the house, and they said that it had smaller ones with it that they took as youngsters, and they all swear that they saw the same thing. So either all of them are all liars, they're all mad, or they saw something paranormal, because if you had something like that, they'd be attacking planes, they'd be turning up on radar, they'd be swooping down and gobbling people up if they were existing in our world all the time. And there's another report from Japan of an American guy seeing he was an English teacher seeing a dragon, and again he said it was white. Another report from Iceland. Lars Thomas told me about this when the big volcano with the unpronounceable name went off a few years ago, and all air traffic was grounded for a bit. He said he saw something flying in the column of ash and smoke, and he said he thought it was a plane at first until it was beating its wings, and he said it was a dragon that had come up out of this volcano.
The white dragon reminds me of the folklore in Britain with Rome, with Romans.
The Celts and the
Because the red dragon symbolised the people of Britain, didn't it? And the white dragon was Rome.
No, the white dragon was the Saxons,
Okay.
and the red dragon was the Celts.
Could it be something along those lines?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I'm sure that some of this, if you were feeling particularly jaundiced against us, would come over as semantics. But I think it's very important that people who claim to be studying cryptozoology are studying hidden animals, who are studying hidden flesh and blood creatures, which are defined by the same laws of physics and zoology as the rest of us. The other stuff does exist. It would be totally and utterly hypocritical of me to condemn the study of, I don't like to use the word monsters, and I don't like to use the word paranormal or supernatural, but it would be totally hypocritical of me to condemn the study of these things, because, after all, my whole career has been based on a book that I wrote nearly 40 years ago, studying the antecedents and appearances of the Cornish owlman, the owlman of Mornon. The CFZ is, in a very real way, the house that Owlman built, and so I am not going to do anything to disparage those people who are interested in such things. But Owlman and Dogman and Slenderman and all the myriad of monstrous creatures that have come since are not animals. So it's not zoology, which means it's not cryptozoology. And I think that if cryptozoology is to be taken seriously as a discipline by people within the mainstream sciences, we have to get our definitions right. Otherwise, it will just be seen as the sort of nonsense which turns up in pages of the American Weekly World News or in our very own Sunday Sport.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little studio, wants me to remind you, always press the notification bell. Otherwise you won't be told when there's a new show to watch. And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it? And here we are at the end of another show. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm very pleased with the way that the CFZ broadcasts are going now, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I enjoy doing them, because, as I think I've said before, my life is a fairly strange one these days. I'm an elderly man, I'm a widower, I'm fairly ill most of the time, I can't walk properly, and the thing I enjoy doing most in my life is making these films. So thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity to do so. I want to say a big thank you here to Carl and Richard, and to Louis and to Graham, and to Miss Maxine, and to everybody else who's involved in the shows. And never fear, there'll be another midweek show on Wednesday, and then on Saturday, which is only another 7 days, we'll be back. And so I'm going to be there, and if you're there to watch us, and me, Louis, and V will be there to chat with you unless everything goes horribly wrong. So if you're there to watch us and we're there to watch you, I'll be seeing you.